Welcome back to the Creators Table. Today, I'm joined by BrookieBunie, the creator of New Dreamlandia, a sci-fi musical experience. This one's a bit of a longer chat, so grab a cup of coffee, sit back, relax, because today we're going right inside the world of New Dreamlandia. We get into the story, meet some of the characters, check out the animation, and talk about the whole creative process, including learning Blender and what it actually takes to bring a project like this to life from scratch. We've got a lot to get into today. So, if you enjoyed the Creators Table, hit subscribe, stick around. We've got plenty more indie creators coming up. Let's get into it.
My name is Brooklyn, or BrookieBunie on YouTube. I am primarily an animator and graphic designer. I have a degree in a bachelor's of science in graphic design, and I'm super excited to present to you guys some other content from my projects, from my pilot, as well as some never before seen content that I decided to leave for this interview. Very excited. So let's get started.
That's fantastic. Super excited to see it. And
Absolutely,
thanks for being
absolutely.
here. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm honestly I was incredibly excited, incredibly elated to have this opportunity to sit down and talk to you about this. When you contacted me, I instantly was interested. I've also seen some of your stuff, so very excited, very excited.
Fantastic.
My pilot is New Dreamlandia. New Dreamlandia is planned to be a 6 to 8 episode series, roughly 20 minutes in length for each episode. For now, we are focusing on just a pilot to show people what it's going to be looking like, what the idea is, introduce people to the characters. New Dreamlandia is a what I'd like to call a sci-fi musical experience. Although it is technically a musical. It does not necessarily have your it's not set up like your normal musical. Most musicals, like I mean, I'm sure you're very familiar with some like Hazbin Hotel, right? Or for people who are more into like the sort of play musicals, like Hamilton or stuff like that. They primarily use music as a way of telling the story, but the music itself doesn't really have a place in the plot, so to speak. For A New Dreamlandia, I wanted to change that. So we instead of unlike most musicals, unlike most other medias that have this form, we decided to actually add it to the world. So the music that we will be using within the show is physically actually in the world. And there's real actual consequences in the series because of this. I think it's an interesting concept. I'm surprised it
Mm,
hasn't been done.
yeah.
Um,
Are there
yeah.
any like previous examples of something like this in the animated world or in the musical world or anything like that that sort of use this process to try and do what you're doing?
Not that I have heard of personally. That I'm sure that doesn't mean that there is some other smaller indie projects that haven't tried at least.
Mhm.
But from my research, I hadn't really known any, and from my experience, I mean, I was a huge fan with musicals. I'm a huge nerd for that stuff. When I was growing up, throughout high school, I would watch a lot of animatics on YouTube. Those were huge back during like 2016 to 2018, and that's what actually got me into animation. And I hadn't found one that was using the music itself as part of the plot, except maybe like there is one, but there's essentially a guy who lives in a town and everyone is everyone loves musicals and they're all singing and like the whole thing is just him not wanting to be in a musical, like that's the whole plot. Like,
Brilliant.
and it's funny. It's a great one. I highly recommend it. And that one is, I feel like, kind of, I guess, would be the closest, and it's a comedy, which, although New Dreamlandia does have some comedic, aspects, its primary direction is not planned to be comedy.
Okay.
Um,
What does it plan to be? More dramatic? More
Yeah, so think of, yeah, like a I would say like a drama, like a maybe, action drama, I guess, or
Okay.
more drama than action, though, I would say. Very, relationship centric, very, focusing on the characters and their relationships with each other and their relationships, with, the people they meet, and just that growing over time. I think that I think that that's something that, a lot of newer animations have explored, like Steven Universe, for example, which was another big inspiration, and I absolutely fell head over heels in love with that sort of concept. A lot of times with a lot of media, we focus too much on, like, the actiony sort of, you know, fighting part and, like, I understand, like,
Yeah.
yeah, and I just I think really honing in on that emotional aspect, that emotional core, I think it makes it more human. It makes it more, I mean, it makes it more beautiful in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I got you. I think
Uh,
that's what, like, I guess what has been kind of did well also, because they do have that other side with all the action and the crazy scenes and everything going on, but they also got that personal side to it as well with, the
Absolutely.
characters and stuff, which is cool.
Absolutely, and that's I think, once again, going back to Has Been, like, that's what makes Has Been stand apart, is the fact that it is so character centric. Like, people want characters that they can really sink their teeth into, they can really feel and relate to, and, I'm hoping to bring that with New Dreamlandia. I think we're doing a very good job with that.
Before you jump into it, can I ask one question that's just on my mind right now? Um, since we're talking about like has been compared to maybe other mainstream sort of shows, if you compare it to
Mhm.
something with something, let's just something like Family Guy or The Simpsons, where there's no like set story that happens over time. Every episode can essentially be its own little feature. Whereas with Has Been, it's obviously like a whole story moving from point A to eventually like the end of the whole series. Is what you're trying to accomplish something like that, or are you planning to make just like, where every episode can just stand on its own?
Yeah, so there will be an overarching plot. That is, the plan currently. I do think episodic shows, like you said, like Family Guy or Simpsons, or I mean SpongeBob for another example. SpongeBob is a big one.
Yeah.
There is a place for them in media, and I do think that they are valid. But I think that shows that really hone in on a story, that grow a story, that have a definitive beginning and a definitive end, I think those hit harder, and I think the reason why we don't see those as often is because for big AAA companies, they want something that they can keep going with, right? They just can keep running and running and running and running with, and with something that has a strict story, you can't really do that with, like,
Yeah.
like Has Been, or Gravity Falls is another one. Gravity Falls, was a 2-season series, and, it had a definitive beginning and a definitive end. It was, it was focusing on the summer, as, them being over and, Gravity Falls during the summer, so it already had, like, a set sort of lifespan, so to speak,
Yeah.
and, but that's what made Gravity Falls so great, is that it had that lifespan, and so you knew at some point you were going to have to say goodbye to these characters. So I feel like it makes the audience cherish every minute with them even more, you know?
100%. It's definitely the indie side of it compared to mainstream also with the indie world. There is that general overarching plot that we strive for,
Mhm.
compared to these AAA titans.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. So these are some character sheets by after this is released, I'm sure these have already been shown, but while we are talking about this, you're actually the first one that I'm showing these to.
Ooh,
Um,
very
so
exciting.
our main character, her name is Minxs Powers. She is our main protagonist. Our protagonists are three girls who live together in an apartment. But I wanted to give some backstory just to for the audience, and maybe for you to kind of get a better idea of their character and where they're coming from. So Minx grew up with her brother Eli. Eli is actually a very intricate part of the series, although he does not show up during the pilot. He is hinted at. We do see him in pictures and stuff like that. What is important though is his love for music, and how him and Minx kind of bonded over his love for music. And because Minx was sort of the younger sister, she absolutely idolizes her brother, idolizes everything he does. But one day her brother has to he enlists in the army, or in the military rather, and he has to go overseas. And because of that, Minx has to move in with a friend of her brother's named Gia. Minx's design is probably my favorite. It was the first one that came to me. I've mentioned that in the first production log that I had released over on my channel. She is a very nice, very simple design. I don't see
Beautiful.
that changing anytime
How
soon.
did like what inspired you to create like this sort of character? The visual, the aesthetic, the vibe, the overall look. It's super cool.
Typically, I'm actually like when I'm not doing like graphic design or whatever, I'm usually making characters.
Mhm.
I love the concept of making characters, of creating characters, making little backstories for them. And Minx was one of the characters that while I've been creating, something at least similar to her has been made several times for over, I would say, at least 3 years. I did show off a sketch of her, like an older sketch, but there was even another one before that. I might have to look for it later. The whole idea though is like carefree, extroverted rock icon sort of thing. She wants the glitz, she wants the glamour, she wants, and she wants to share that with her friends, with her brother, very, very rambunctious, very gremlin. Think of if you want to think of like a particular character, think like Nifty, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah. No, that energy is popping through the screen already. Like that vibe of what you're saying. That rambunctious. It's very cool.
That's why I think I really, I do like the other characters, don't get me wrong, but I think that's why I really enjoy, Minx as a character is because, she's one of the characters that just tends to like, the emotion tends to just, like, be very vibrant, you know what I mean? Very right in your face,
Yeah.
um, and, yeah, I'm excited to bring that to the screen. That's another thing, very excited to animate her. I just think she's gonna be such a ride to animate. Like
I can imagine. Yeah, awesome.
our next one is Gia. So Gia is the older, sort of more responsible character. She was friends with Eli throughout high school, and they had grown a pretty close bond together. Gia is kind of the cynical realist as well, so she doesn't really she kind of takes life as the way she sees it. Even where Minx is kind of the one that's like the dreamer, so to speak. Gia is the one that is kind of bringing the temperature in the room down back to reality. I ironically, Gia was supposed to be a rat, believe it or not, when I first designed her. But because the rat was kind of short and Minx was also kind of short from a design perspective, I kind of figured they would clash a little bit. So um, I went for something a little different. I went for a giraffe. I very much enjoy the design. There might be some changes, admittedly, that I might make, just primarily with the spots for just for animation purposes. When you're drawing something constantly, you want to make sure you can draw it consistently.
Right.
So maybe simplifying the spots just a slight touch. Besides that, pretty happy with the design, pretty happy with the characterization, especially in the script. I feel like the characterization is very well done.
Definitely.
Um, mhm.
Definitely. It's beautiful. Like what? Like the world that they're all living in. Are they? I guess like part of the animal kingdom the ish, like the vibe that you're going for, like
Mhm.
animal vibes.
So our main characters live in a alternate universe to our own. So it's called so the country they live in is called Criteria. So Criteria is a a world similar to, like I said, similar to our own. It's very anthro. It's very humanistic. But the big change is being that each animal type is a different species of sorts. So I'm sure, although it's not really explored as much, I'm sure there would be like some infighting or some sort of, racial sort of thing you could add in there. But I tried to keep it as close to humanistic as possible while keeping the designs very unique. So there is a lore reason why they are animals, but it's more in the sense of like they evolved that way instead of humans in this universe, right? So humans in this sense don't exist in this world, and instead there's these anthro humanistic animals instead.
Amazing. I love that. It's so cool. And they look so fun. I
Thank
would
you.
definitely watch
Thank
it.
already. Wow,
Alright, we
get
definitely.
one more viewer. Let's
Yeah,
go.
let's go.
I have the age wrong over there in the corner. That's my bad.
I was
So
gonna
Gia's
ask if, but then I see on the other side she's actually 32. Um,
Yes,
right.
she is much older. She is the oldest out of our three main characters. And like I said, like the mom essentially of him. So, that she makes sure that the girls get to work on time, she makes sure the bills are paid. When we first actually meet her within the pilot, she's figuring out their finances. So, uh, uh, from the start, we kind of see that Gia is the responsible one, essentially. Um,
Someone's
so
got to be the responsible one, right? And
absolutely, absolutely, and especially when you have crazy little minx running around causing mischief. You need someone there to ground the household, so to speak. So this is our next character. I spent a long time on this character because I was very unsure about the design. So as you can see, I did expressions, I did different outfits, I did
yeah.
different posings. This is our next character. Her name is Nina. So Nina is trans. She's a trans woman.
Mhm.
Um, Nina's kind of an outlier in a few different ways. So she really never knew Eli personally. And by the time she really came into the group or met, Minx, she had like Eli had already left for deployment. Sorry, I read that wrong.
Oh, okay.
Nina's whole character, her whole sort of purpose of sense is she's kind of the soft spoken, the sweet and shy one. She kind of stumbled upon this family in a sense. There is more to the backstory, but I kind of want to wait
Yeah.
to
No
see if we can
spoilers.
get some more episodes. Yeah, no spoilers, no spoil. But there will be some glimpses into the future of New Dreamlandia, but for Nina, I do want to wait. She is she's a very wonderful character though, very sweet. She gets a lot of funny lines in the pilot. She's kind of the one that she's kind of the one that although she's responsible, she doesn't exactly she's not exactly thrilled about some of it. You feel like, especially working as much as they work their tails off, as it's hinted throughout the pilot. Um, she very clearly is not a big fan.
What is the setting that they're living in? Because not knowing anything about like the environment they're in, I'm picturing like a city in an apartment building. Or let me know if I'm wrong, or if it's completely different. If it's like suburban or farm, like what's the?
I'm glad you asked. Yeah, yeah, just picture it. Okay, just picture it. For one, you were right. There is an apartment.
Ah,
So, I am making all of our settings in Blender. I have been meticulously modeling them out. So I wanted to show off some stuff while I talk about it. So, they live in a very small, tiny apartment. Think like kind of a studio apartment with some offshoots for the bedrooms. So think of studio, but like you get your own bedrooms type thing. So these are some pictures. So the one over here on the left is their bedrooms where they're outside of their bedrooms. And the one on the right is the dining room table. As you can see, they had not cleaned up in a bit. They've been struggling with bills and with keeping up with everything.
Yeah, I see the
Um,
calculator that Gio would be working out the finances on. Is that right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's important. Everything besides the characters are planned to be 3D. Originally, believe it or not, I was planning on only doing furniture and like different setting areas. But after kind of using Blender and really thinking about it, I wanted to make sure to have to keep a lot of 3D assets for the characters to interact with, just to kind of bridge that gap between mediums. So, and also this 2D 3D combo also allows us to keep ourselves apart from things like Hasbin Hotel,
Yeah.
like the Amazing Digital Circus.
Yeah,
Um,
you're like using the best of both.
that is the plan. The plan is to meld these two mediums into one beautiful look.
Wow.
I also want to say some of these aren't entirely finished. So these parts, for instance, like there will be pictures here, there will be something added here as well. These are just nice little shots to give you guys an idea of what the project is planned to look like, right? So let's go to our next slide here. So our next slide is showing the kitchen, as you can see, as well as the TV, and of course our little game system here. Uh, I made a nice little GameCube clone. I thought it would be a nice little fun, nod, as well
Yeah.
as just being something nice. Um, this outline as well, that this black outline is also done within Blender. This is not something I add manually. So, I use a stroke and then I add a line art modifier, and this gives us this wonderful little line art that helps ground it a little more. Once again, we want to make sure that it gives off a 2D vibe without being 2D.
Yeah, I think
Mostly
you're
for
definitely achieving that sort of look with those
Thank you, thank you.
outlines.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
That means a lot. Before we go on to the next one, was there any questions?
How long does it take you to create like the image with the TV, for example, and the corner part of the couch with the GameCube? Like how long?
So it depends. For things like the TV, for instance, or like the entertainment center, it doesn't take too long. It's mostly just learning the tools you have within Blender, right? For some things like the couch, they're actually not made by me at all. They're actually made from a website that sells open source models. That I Yes. So I play for a lot of those, like for instance, like this sort of block from this knife block right here, and like the dishes. Those are all things that I had found on other. Well, some of the dishes I did make. Those are all things that I found on a third party site, and then I do plan on giving credit to those once the thing releases within the credits and everything else. I have a very large notes document that I keep everything on. But for this type of stuff where I'm doing texture painting, and you'll see more texture painting here in a second, it does take a bit only because I have to manually paint the entire thing. But I think we get the benefit of, once again, getting that 2D feel because it feels very organic. And I think it breaks down the sort of monotonous or very simple shapes that come with 3D modeling.
Yeah.
So that was very important for me, especially for the apartment, because you want the apartment, someone's apartment, to feel comfortable. You want that apartment to feel lived in. So you want to add these sort of organic, special, very unique things, which is what this one was supposed to be. So this is all texture painted right here, the calamari fighter thing, this one right here. There's little game orb, I call it the gamer orb. The gamer orb cases right here, and there's books below here. Um all of this is texture painted, and little flippy ice.
Wow. That's
Yes.
amazing.
It I did this all last night. I really wanted to show you guys it. So I locked in yesterday and I spent the entire day getting this done.
Wow. That is super cool.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you very
that is
much.
amazing.
Um I also, although you can't see it all, I won't say what, But in this screenshot right here, there's a small little code that may tell you about the main villain of the series. That's all I will leave for people in the audience. But just a small, tiny code. Still very nice, very well. I think it came out wonderfully. I could not have asked for a better you know, how better situation. I'm very excited to get animating in this environment. Um, Also, low key, want to make the calamari fighter like an actual poster. Maybe I will in the future. I don't know. I really like that though. Oh wait, did you have before I left? I'm sorry. Did you have any questions?
I'm just taking it all in. I'm enjoying it. That calamari fighter poster is epic.
It
So much
is.
fun. The whole overall design is so much fun.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. So our next setting is Crowley's Cafe. So this is where the girls actually work. So Crowley's Cafe was the second setting I actually started on. It needs a little bit of polish still, and some of these are a little older. You can tell because the whiteboard's empty.
Right.
But essentially what I wanted to focus on with this one is getting our feel. So a lot of times, what I'll do is I'll make a part of it, and then I'll go on to the next part, and then I'll be like, "But wait, this is better than what I did over on the previous setting, right?" And Carly's Cafe was what actually inspired me to go back and clean up the apartment. So, for instance, the outline that we have right here, and in all reality, will probably be fixed just ever so slightly. There is some errors still, but I still enjoy the vibe. I still enjoy the very strong visual look of Crowley's Cafe, and I think it's got a very nice personality.
Definitely.
If we go on to the next one here, we have these little things right here. We have little cake pops that I worked on, as well as this glass texture that was incredibly important for me. I really wanted to make sure to nail that. Um, this is going to be where Minx sits. So this is that is the cash register. We have our little receipt machine over here. This receipt machine in general was what taught me how to multi-texture things. So in Blender, my initial experience with Blender only taught me how to texture things like objects with one texture. But in reality, if you know what you're doing, you can select set different faces and then make another texture and just assign that texture to those faces. Incredibly useful. Once again, some of these are also open source assets, like these, for example, which I do plan on changing the texture a little bit. I believe I already have to an extent. So some of these are open source, like the bottles here. Although the table, these booths, these two, like I said, any of the counters. If we go back to these ones real quick, these tables as well, the flowers, the vases, these little display things. Those are all made by myself here. Even like these, like the counters here. If I had a choice, to be honest, I would 3D model the entire thing myself. But when you're an indie creator and you're only doing it yourself, you have to think about what's the fastest way I can get to a finished product without damaging my artistic integrity.
Right.
Um, and that has been the most important thing for me. And so I think allowing some free assets, if anything, just to give a shout out to these people who do this free work for us to just use whenever we need them. Like honestly, I think that's worth it. I think that's worth it.
And those assets, they're obviously reoccurring and will be there like as a fixed sort of state in their position, right? They're not going to
Mhm.
change. They're there for every episode. Like once they're
Yeah,
there, they're locked in. Is that right?
if I wanted to, I could move them, but
Mhm.
most likely I will not. Most of these assets, I think the only assets that may move is like this is going to be a lost and found box right here.
Cool.
Um, so that may move,
That's clever.
or like if I want the characters to like dust, you know what I mean, like sweep or something, like those types of things. But a lot of these other smaller things like this or like the bottles and stuff
Yeah.
like that, those are mostly there just to, you know, once again, make it. You want to make it feel lived in. You want to make it feel like an actual establishment. Um, and an actual establishment would want condiments. An actual establishment would be selling their coffee. You know what I mean, selling their chocolate bars or cake pops or you know what have you, different things. It's even like I wish I had a better shot to show you guys. I actually do have a better shot. Like the donuts and stuff that are in here, I have like croissants and stuff. Like, you want those to be full. You want
Yeah.
or not like totally full, right? Because like people came in and bought some up, so you want it to be like somewhat full with like some empty spaces, you know.
Yes.
It's it's a balancing act. It's always a balancing act within making settings of making it feel lived in, but at the same time not making it feel like it's like a perfect little dollhouse, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got to feel a part of the story as well. You want to feel those characters are really there, so they're not just walking into an establishment where everything looks perfect and pretty, but it doesn't feel like they're connected. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, this was the last picture here. Once again, like this right here, I did not model as much as I would love to say I modeled this because this is a very nice little area. And then you know, the mixer, little lost and found that comes up during our script, and some tables that are purposefully ripped from these tables over here, just textured differently, if you could tell.
Oh, cool.
Um,
Okay.
that's another thing that I feel like is important is reusing assets where you need to reuse them, but making them look a little different. You know, you don't want them to be exactly the same, or maybe you do. I mean, you know, I guess it depends on the project, but like, you want them to. If you just change it up a little bit, it completely feels like a different thing. It feels like a different, especially for things like tables or like chairs, right? Like those almost feel like secondary to like what the focus is going to be on for the series as it is.
Right.
So before I go to the next part, any questions?
I'm loving it. No, please continue. This is awesome. Um,
All right. So this one doesn't have as much stuff, but I wanted to drop a couple nuggets for you and the viewers to show you the plans for the future of Dreamlandia. So like I had stated in the beginning, Dreamlandia is planned to be a 6 to 8 episode series, 20 minutes in length roughly for each episode. And it's following these girls as they find this they find this secret sort of suitcase, this unmarked, unknown suitcase, and they find a laptop that transports them to another world. That's the general plot I want to go for. Um, for the pilot, we end with them being transported to the world, but we never really see what the world is. So, the first thing I wanted to show you guys before we get to the big one is I wanted to show you Elias's design. I'm not done it yet. Um, so this is Elias. Elias, once again, is Minx's brother. He's in the military. He has been at towards throughout the series, we find out that he is MIA. He's missing in action. He unfortunately, well, what they're telling them is they got hit by a sort of IUD or something similar to that, and they can't find him. He's missing in action. This obviously devastates Minx and kind of initiates the entire thing.
yeah,
Go
I mean,
ahead.
I can't ask if he's ever going to be found or if they're going to find him, because obviously that's probably a big
Like,
story point. Yeah, but
yeah, I guess
I
you have to
kind of
find
want to
out.
know though. I feel like, but I know that you're not going to, and we don't, we obviously can't know.
That's
But it's a, it's
that's
a
a that's
cool.
a that's a good question. And the only thing I'll leave you guys with is that although we don't find out where Elias is by the end of the pilot, the music does tend to resonate with Minx's grief with losing him, and I will leave it there.
Okay.
But yeah, I for Elias's design, just to go off on like a small little spiel here. I wanted to go with something similar to Minx to kind of make sure that he is kind of in the same vein, kind of design-wise has some things that are similar because they are related. So, he has the fangs, he has very similar fur color, little different with the white little white things on his head there. Yeah, that's just like a little extra flair. I wanted to keep close to Minx, but it is important also for him to have his own sort of vibe, right? You don't want to like lean too close to the original design. So I added those to kind of separate him, as well as kind of swap the colors. So if we go back to Minx here, you'll see she's pink with purple eyebrows. And if you look at Elias, he is purple with pink eyebrows.
That's awesome.
So I swapped the palette in that sense, just to give him a darker, more I don't want to say mysterious, but just darker, sort of more badass fucking look. If I'm gonna be real,
Yeah, no, and he does. He kind of, I mean, he looks like the older brother.
I also decided to give him a similar sort of collar. What I would like to think is that him and Minx got those collars kind of at the same time, or maybe like he bought that for her before he left. You know what I mean? It's sort of like you'll always be with me. Like don't worry about me type of thing. That's another very similar sort of design aspect that I added. He needs some touch up proportion wise. He needs a little bit of touch up here and there, but these are just some concept arts for the most part. So,
Awesome.
the design may vary. He might, there might be some small changes here and there, but for the most part, I think this is a relatively nice design. I love the color palette. Take the green and purple go beautifully together. Any questions before the big reveal?
Is there a big reveal?
Yeah, there's a pretty big reveal.
Oh wow, cool. Okay, cool. The idea behind voice acting these awesome characters, are you going to do them all? Do you have people that you're thinking of working with, or are you looking at different, like, how are you planning on approaching that element?
So, I'm actually glad you asked because after this interview, I want to send you. I do have voice actors, and I'd like to send you their stuff if you wouldn't mind maybe giving them a small shout out on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, they've been such a wonderful group of people to work with. Like honestly, it has been amazing. They've been so understanding and they've been very, very helpful. Unfortunately, as you know, as an indie creator, it's incredibly hard to work on a shoestring budget. I'm literally making this all by myself. I don't, I'm lucky enough where I have my brother who helps me fund a lot of the programs that I use for certain things. For voice actors, um, they're working for free right now, which I hate to admit. I really hate to admit because I actually, if it was up to me, I would pay them. I would pay them. They're just wonderful people, and I really want to give them a shout out.
Shout out to the
So
voice actors. That's amazing. When
yes,
you thought of like their vocal styles when you're creating the characters, and then you relay that information to your voice actors, like what's that like?
So initially, it was rather challenging. To be very honest, it was my first time actually working with voice actors, and especially to a capacity where I was directing them to do certain things. Um, I was very lucky enough where my voice actors for actually just about all of them, but especially the main three characters, they kind of already nailed it when I gave it to them. Like I went on casting call and I put out a casting call. I don't know if you've been on Casting Call Club before, but very very nice website, very
Okay.
you know great community. I put it out and I had a kind of an idea I had an idea for Minx, but like for Gia and especially Nina, like I was a little less sure, a little less sure what I wanted. But, I kind of found stuff that was at least similar to what I was thinking, and they nailed it. They just totally nailed it. I feel like I'm a bit spoiled on that front, to be honest. Um, it has been a challenge though. When we did the first cold read of the rough draft of the script, oh jeez, it's been like 2 months now, 2 months ago roughly. I think that's when I really realized that they were the ones I wanted for it. Like, They seem like very nice people. They nailed it. Like, absolutely. They were having a fun time with it. And I think that's what you want with voice actors. You want people who can have camaraderie with each other, who can talk to each other and really have a vibe for the show. You
Yes.
want people to have an investment in the show. Honestly, I don't think that's very hard. I think that's kind of hard to come by. And I was lucky in the respect that I don't know. They must really like the series. Really excited about it.
That's awesome. Now, I'm sure, like, once, and I don't see why it wouldn't, but like once it takes off, you couldn't hear any other voice actor playing the parts of these characters, right? Because now you already have their sounds and their voices in your head. So using other people wouldn't work. I mean, these are the. I'm just assuming here, like.
No, you're pretty accurate. I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could really find VAs that I'd be happy with now because I've been so spoiled with these guys. Like they're just very wonderful people. That's why I've been talking to them. They'll probably get a shout out on the prod log that will drop also today. I really want to give them shout outs. I really want to give them some love because for doing what they're doing, especially for not getting paid doing what they're doing, they deserve as much love as I can give them.
They deserve all the love.
And
That's incredible.
absolutely, absolutely, no, 100%.
And then,
You said you had.
yes, question number two was the music and the sound, like the overall theme. How are you approaching that? As a myself coming from the music side, I'm just curious with this cool idea that you have, especially like.
So it's funny you say that. The music aspect is actually what started me on this in the first place. I have a wonderful friend. His artist name is Seconds After Dark. Very very talented artist, just beautiful voice, wonderful vibes in his music. And like I had been really close with him for a long time, and he would send me his stuff, like a lot of his like unreleased stuff, and I'd listen to it. And I just started like really crafting like stories around it because it was just amazingly just like in depth, like amazingly just so gorgeous. Like I don't know how else to explain it.
Mm.
In fact, before this project, I had done a music video for one of his songs called "See You at the Party." After that one, I wanted to do another music video, but at the same time, to me, like music videos are great, but like I wanted something bigger. You know what I mean? Like I wanted something that would span past just music. Music is a brilliant, wonderful, beautiful art, and it brings so much like potential. And I think most people just kind of box themselves in with a music video. So I wanted to hone his music into a different medium. And I feel like that's a part of what sparked New Dreamlandia was that sort of honing in on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm so excited. Is there something that we could listen to that you have online or anywhere? Like,
You can listen to "See You at the Party" on Spotify, as well as on my YouTube channel if you want to see the music video. The current the song for New Dreamlandia is done, but we haven't bought the beat yet. So unfortunately, I don't know if we can show it. If we do show it, you might get copyright strike.
right.
So
But when you say the
um,
song, do you mean like the opening title theme song or like.
oh, no, there's a whole music video at the end of there's planned to be a whole music video at the end of the show.
Okay.
Ma we actually haven't even thought about a theme. I haven't even I guess we could just use the song as a theme, I guess, but, we'll cross that bridge once we get to
Yeah,
it. Baby steps.
that's it.
Um There will be a music video attached to the end. And for every episode of New Dreamlandia, I am planning to have at least a single song that will essentially be a sort of music video, exploring each character's backstory, exploring each character's mindset, and grow and seeing our characters grow from that. And like I said, this music isn't just music, right? Or like something that they're singing. This is actual physical stuff within the world of New Dreamlandia. This is not, you know what I mean? These people are actually listening to these songs. And so because these songs, the whole like concept of New Dreamlandia and the whole concept of using music is these songs resonate with each character's sort of whatever they're feeling at the time. You know what I mean? Their emotions, their personality. Because that's what music actually does for people is, you know, we connect with this music, you know, even if you're not like, you know, having these sort of existential sort of, trips that these people that people are having in NDL,
Yeah.
you are still connecting with the music and you're still growing from this music. And I think I want to personify that. I want to show that and personify that with New Dreamlandia.
I think
Um,
for me that sounds the most exciting, just to see how you're gonna achieve that, like by doing that, like
yeah.
from the music side. I'm very psyched to see that happen and to see how you approach that and to like hear it whilst watching it.
I'd also like to talk about Dreamlandia as a place real quick,
Hmm.
because it actually leads us into my big reveal. So, although Dreamlandia isn't really mentioned or really even seen within the pilot, I've been in the back kind of building a sort of story, a sort of lineage throughout my time creating this. And although I can't say the entire thing because well, you guys will be probably seeing it later on. Maybe those codes have a little thing about that, you know? But, what I will say about Dreamlandia is Dreamlandia, when it was created, has a sort of royal lineage that has, been defending and, protecting Dreamlandia. That this lineage consists of 3 different people. So these 3 being, 1 prince, 1 princess, and 1 queen, all, all related, all siblings. So the queen actually had to recently take over after her dad passed away, which leads us to our next one, which is Lyra. So Lyra is the queen of Dreamlandia. Lyra is this is once again only concept art. Designs may vary, but, the whole idea of Lyra is she is, thrusted into this role that she never wanted, only to protect her, father's legacy. Her and her father were incredibly close. She had seen her father, rise with Dreamlandia, meet the creator of Dreamlandia, and has now seen her father pass. And so going through this grief, she is incredibly protective, incredibly scared to see Dreamlandia fall. So, throughout we will see you will see our main characters meet Lyra. We will see them clash a little bit and hopefully resolve.
It's amazing. So, like, the whole royal side of it is not. I was gonna say if it's sort of like a B plot, I guess, versus against your 3 main characters, the A plot, but more running parallel, just a different until they meet up.
So I would like to think of Lyra Cleft and Muse. And so Lyra Cleft and Muse and Minx, Gia and Nina as sort of opposites of each other.
Okay.
So Lyra, for example, would be kind of the opposite of Gia. So Gia is very cynical. She's very, sort of like, oh, like, life is life sort of thing. Lyra is like, life is life, is she's all, whatever, but also I want to push this, I want to grow this. She's less into the cynical side as much as she's into the hopeful side of you know, kind of looking at life. Like, yeah, life is bad. Yeah, this isn't great. But if I keep pushing forward, if I keep doing this, it can grow into something better and something bigger.
Gotcha.
So
So,
I
an important part of the story then, clearly.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't necessarily say it's a B plot per
Mhm.
se. There is a B plot, but the A plot, instead of being just focused on our main 3, is focused on our main 3, their relationships, and also them meeting these new people and clashing or even, agreeing with these people, and what that entails.
Gotcha. Sounds awesome.
So, Lyra is my last reveal, my last little trump card. It's been very fun making her. I do have another concept art, but I purposefully left it out because, I can't show it yet. Okay, so it's a big part of the story. So, did you have any questions? Anything I could explain or anything?
I do. I wanted to. It was actually a couple of slides ago. Yes, the whole budget thing. Being an indie artist, that like I know because I've been asked like 1,000 times as well. Like, okay, you're an adult and you want to make a cartoon, you want to make it a musical, cool, whatever. Okay, but why is it taking so long as well? No one, people
Right.
struggle to grasp the whole thing that it can take like a very long time. Like, it takes fucking long to put out something like this. How do you like feel about that whole thing? And if someone had to ask you why does it take so long, like what would you say?
I can kind of understand their perspective. I feel like
Hmm.
for someone who doesn't understand the arts as much,
Hmm.
it's kind of like, okay, it's just a bunch of pictures and colors, you know what I mean? Like, why doesn't it take that long?
Yeah.
Or why does it take that long? I think I would just explain to them that, most of these projects, especially, a lot of the, shows that I'm sure they have seen, even things like Family Guy or even South Park,
Mm,
for that matter. South Park, who uses rudimentary, very simple animation, has huge teams, massive teams of people.
there you go.
Sometimes, depending on the project, I mean, if it's a movie, hundreds and hundreds of people working on a single thing, when you're an indie creator, you're not just making the project, you have to make the logo, you have to advertise the project, you have to, find voice actors or do the voice acting yourself if you don't want to find voice actors, or, you have to do sound editing. You have to, you have to be
Everything.
a
You're
person of
wearing all those hats.
many hats,
Yeah.
constantly switching. And, that ultimately takes time after a while. I don't know. I honestly, there's very few animations out there that are primarily made by one person. I mean, even Hazbin Hotel, the pilot for Hazbin Hotel took nearly 10 years,
Yeah.
like 10 years of work. Like, and like, even that project had a lot of animators on it. Like, for just to name a few, like, I think Squiggly Digs was on that one, if you know Squiggly
Mhm.
Digs, and, I think Mystery Ben might have been. I might be wrong about that, though. Big, big animators now, right? Or
Yeah.
Ashley Nicole. Ashley Nicole was another animator, I believe, that worked on Has Been Hotel. I think it's just important to think of, size and scope, and when you're creating, this is something that I do on my channel. I try and break it down for people who are artists or don't necessarily understand the process, just to show what I'm doing on a monthly basis, just to show, like, why is it taking you so long? Where is the project at? What are you working on? I think that's important.
Definitely.
I think people want to support indie animators, but I think people also don't want to be, get the wool pulled over their eyes. There's been a lot of projects that have taken advantage of, consumers. So I think a part of that is transparency. I think a part of that is lack of knowledge. And I'm hoping to be the channel, to be the creator, to kind of help with that, even to help with artists. Not to keep going on a rant here. I'm sorry,
No,
but
no, no, no. It's
that's a,
important for people to hear. I mean, this is, and I think that also helps as an indie creator get, I guess, like start helping you build a fan base or a group of people that will eventually become like these major fans of Dreamlandia and
exactly.
the world that you're building.
Exactly, though. I think that's incredibly important. I think, AAA studios have the advantage of having the manpower, but as an indie creator, and this is why I think indie animation, indie gaming, indie music is the future, is we may not have the manpower. You may have to do everything manually, and it may take like 5 ever to do everything, right? But
Mm.
like, we have the heart, we have the spirit. We people. It has been very clear through trends in box offices with like Disney projects and stuff like that, that people want more than just an animation. They want an experience. They want an artistic experience, someone's actual vision. And indie animation, I think, can do that. I think that's important. And I that's why I want to like help promote, and I want to help push indie artists through my work. I break down how I do things, where I do things, you know what I mean? Why I make decisions, where and I want indie creators or future indie creators, even maybe someone who's not so sure they want to go into it. Maybe they're scared about it. I know I was. It took me years to work up the courage to do it
Yeah.
because it's just a scary scene. You're going up against these massive Goliaths, like,
Yeah.
who own like
Everything.
half of everything. Yeah, like actually, like everything, like every TV channel, every streaming service, like, you're going up against these massive Goliaths. It's very scary, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping to have this guide so that people can understand that it doesn't have to be scary. It's a big thing to go through, but like I always say, you have to trust the process. You have to trust where you're going with it, And if you trust it, you will get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
Just trust me.
And as much as the final destination is important, the journey itself is, I think, just as important.
I would say even more important.
Yeah.
I mean, even through the process of doing stuff for New Dreamlandia, I have learned so much stuff. I didn't have a lick of experience with Blender. I had some experience with Maya throughout my like college years, but like I didn't have any experience with Blender. This was my first time doing anything in Blender, and I have learned so many tools on like growing. And I'm sure I've made mistakes, but of course you're gonna make mistakes. The mistakes I feel like are the most important parts because you
Yeah.
grow and you learn from them.
100%, yeah. Well, I, for one, and I'm sure people watching definitely cannot wait to see new Dreamland Media. The world is Dreamlandia, right? But the show itself is New Dreamlandia. Am I saying that right?
No, you're fine.
Yeah,
So
I don't
the
wanna mess
show
it up.
itself, the show itself is called New Dreamlandia.
Right.
There might be a reason for that. Just gonna throw that out there too. But the place itself is called Dreamlandia.
Okay.
So that is the world created by the dreams of others that these people fall into, essentially.
That's awesome. BrookieBunie. Yeah. When are we going to see a pilot, a full 20 minutes? When are we going to watch the show? When's it going to come out? Right? Because people will say, right? What would be like your ideal goal? I know it's impossible to say because there's always, but ideally, if you could have everything work as seamless as possible, like when would you like to put out a complete episode? I know that's asking a lot.
So we're aiming for December right now.
Wow.
We've been making significant progress. I believe so. When this interview drops, there will be a production log that also drops about the characters. And then our next production log is going to be about learning Blender and the 3D modeling that I had learned, which will show some more updated photos, as well as there's another scene, which is going to be Minx's room that I have to do as well. So there will be that, as well as some other smaller things that I will not spoil, but there will be some other stuff dropping too. We drop a production log every 15th, documenting it. So I treat this like essentially like devlogs for I don't know if you've seen like a lot of indie gaming creators.
Yeah.
I basically treat them like devlogs. So, instead of talking about mechanics, I talk about assets basically. So, look at these pretty things, or look at these things.
Yeah, it's fantastic. 10 years from now in the future, when you look back, it's kind of like watching Vivzy Pop's first YouTube videos 10 years ago. It's like just her like busy sketching on a thingy, and like it's cool. It's cool to watch that. I bet she didn't even think that it would become what it became years later. So, I mean, how could anyone think something like that could get so big?
Oh, Vivzy went through so many projects. I mean, before that, it was Zoophobia. If you remember Zoophobia.
Yes.
Like I said, huge inspiration. I followed her for a very long time. I've had my pulse on this for a while. It's been scary to pull the trigger, but now I'm ready. I am very confident in this. We are full speed ahead. Okay, we ain't stopping for nothing.
Can't stop now. Nah. There's only one.
We in too deep now. We going with it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this. I'm super excited to see it. I know everyone else is going to be super excited to see it. And we're going to drop all your socials as well below.
Shout out to my VAs. Shout out to the Cast and Co Club. Shout out to my brother. He goes by Shorty Adams. He's been a huge inspiration, a huge help, and also just someone who has really mentally been keeping me in the right mindset. Someone who's believed in me through this entire project before I even had a degree, before I even was drawn on YouTube. He was the one person that believed in me. Shout out to him.
Shout out. That's amazing.
I thank you so much for having me on. This has been such a treat to show all of you guys this. Thanks to Keeper's Corner.